The call came on a Tuesday morning just after I'd finished my second coffee. I remember because I was standing at the kitchen window watching the snow come down on the backyard, thinking about nothing in particular. Retired men think about nothing in particular a lot. It's one of the few honest pleasures left. My daughter-in-law's voice was clipped. Not angry exactly, but the way someone sounds when they've already decided how a conversation is going to go before they dial. The condo fees are overdue again. Did you e-transfer it yet? I set my mug down on the counter, slowly. Good morning to you too, I said. She didn't laugh. She never laughed at things like that. Mitchell said you were going to handle it by the 1st. It's the 9th. I told her I'd look into it. She hung up without saying goodbye. That part wasn't unusual. What was unusual was that 3 days earlier, on the Saturday, my son and his wife had apparently gotten married. I found out from my brother. He'd seen the photos on Facebook. A venue downtown, one of those renovated warehouse places with Edison bulbs and exposed brick that cost $4,000 just to rent for the evening. My son in a charcoal suit I'd never seen before. His girlfriend, well, his wife now, in a white dress with a long train. 200 people in the photos, maybe more. My brother called me Sunday night. Beautiful ceremony, he said carefully. Did you have a good time? There was a long pause. I wasn't there, I said. Another pause. Longer. Oh, my brother said. And then nothing else, because there wasn't anything else to say. I want to be honest about something, because I think it matters for you to understand how I got here, to this point, standing in my kitchen being asked about condo fees 3 days after my only son got married without telling me. I was not a perfect father. I worked too much when Mitchell was young. His mother and I divorced when he was 11, and those years after were hard on everyone. I wasn't there the way I should have been. I know that. I've known it for a long time, and I've spent the better part of the last 20 years trying to make up for it in the only language I knew fluently, which was money. I paid for his university, 4 years at Western business degree, everything covered. Tuition, residence, meal plan, a used Honda Civic so he didn't have to take the bus in the winter. When he graduated and moved to Toronto, I co-signed his first apartment lease because his credit wasn't established yet. When he and his now wife moved in together 3 years ago, I helped them with a down payment on a condo in Liberty Village. $75,000. I had it in savings. I gave it to them. And then, because the mortgage was still steep, and Mitchell had been between jobs more often than not, I had been quietly covering their monthly condo fee, $840, for the better part of 2 years. That's not something I talked about. Not to my brother, not to my friends from the old neighborhood in Mississauga, not to anyone. It felt private. It felt like something a father does. You hold the thing up from underneath, and you don't make a fuss about it, because making a fuss would embarrass your son, and you love your son, even when he stops calling unless he needs something. Mitchell is 34 years old. In those 2 years, he has not once called me just to ask how I was doing. I'm 63. I had a mild cardiac event 18 months ago, nothing catastrophic, but enough that I spent 2 nights in the Mississauga hospital and came home with a prescription and some new restrictions on what I'm supposed to eat. My son called me the next afternoon. I remember being moved by that. The call lasted 6 minutes. Before he hung up, he mentioned that the property tax bill had come in higher than expected that quarter. I sent an e-transfer that evening, $2,200. The hospital bracelet was still on my wrist. I'm telling you all of this because I need you to understand that I wasn't oblivious. I knew what was happening. I just kept telling myself it was temporary, that he was finding his footing, that the right woman would steady him, that a real job would come along, that at some point the boy I'd raised would resurface and we'd sit across from each other at dinner and he'd thank me and mean it. And I could let go of the guilt I'd been carrying since 2001 when I missed his school play because I had a client dinner in Calgary. His now wife, I'll be plain, never liked me. I don't think it was personal. I think she looked at me and saw an ATM attached to an inconvenience. I was the father who showed up at holidays with an envelope and left early because I didn't know how to fill a room with small talk anymore. I wore flannel shirts to Christmas dinner. I drove a 12-year-old F-150 because the thing still ran fine, and I grew up in a household where you used what worked until it didn't. I once overheard her describing me to someone at Easter as very blue-collar in a tone that had clearly not intended to be a compliment. For a long time I tried not to take it personally. People are who they are. My son loved her, or at least he said so, and I was trying. But they had a wedding. 200 people, an open bar, a band, a florist, a cake with real buttercream and fresh flowers on top. I could see all of it in the photos my brother forwarded to me, and they did not tell me it was happening. I called Mitchell on the Sunday after I got off the phone with my brother. He let it go to voicemail. I called again Monday morning. He picked up on the fourth ring. "Hey, Dad." He sounded like a man who had been briefed on a difficult situation and had decided to play it casual. "I heard congratulations are in order," I said. A short silence. "Yeah, we did it. It was a small thing, kind of last minute." I looked at the Facebook photos again on my laptop while we talked. The head table seated 12. The dance floor was full. A DJ booth in the corner was lit up like a small arena. 200 people, I said. "Around that, yeah." "Last minute." We wanted something low-key, Dad. No pressure on anyone." I asked him what that meant. No pressure on anyone. He said they'd wanted to keep it intimate, just close friends and family. I let that sit for a moment. "I'm your father," I said. "I dunno." "Did your mother go?" Pause. "Yeah." "Your grandparents?" "Grandma on Mom's side. Yeah." "Your friends from university?" "Dad." "I'm just asking." He said something about how they'd known I wouldn't be comfortable with a big event, that I wasn't really a social person, that they didn't want to make me feel obligated. He said it carefully, like he'd rehearsed it, and maybe he had. I don't know. What I do know is that I sat in my kitchen after we hung up, and I looked at my hands for a long time. Then my phone buzzed, an e-transfer notification, not outgoing, incoming. Mitchell was requesting money, $2,000, something about an unexpected car repair and the condo insurance renewal coming up at the same time. I stared at the request for a long time. I didn't accept it, I didn't decline it, I just closed the app. That night, for the first time in probably 2 years, I slept a full 8 hours. The next morning, I called my financial advisor, a practical woman in Oakville who I've worked with for 11 years. I told her I needed to restructure some of my automatic payments. The condo fee contributions, gone. The quarterly gifts I'd been sending that weren't really gifts so much as bailouts, done. I also called my lawyer and asked him to review the terms of my will. Not to punish anyone, just to look at it with clear eyes after what felt like a long time of seeing things blurry. My lawyer is a calm man. He listened without interrupting. When I finished explaining, he said, "It sounds like you've made a decision." I said I supposed I had. "Do you want to give them notice?" he asked. "A transition period?" I thought about it. The wedding photos, the voicemail, the 4-minute call from the hospital, the e-transfer request 2 days after the ceremony. "No," I said. The condo fee came due on the 1st of the following month. I didn't send it. I didn't respond to the reminder text my daughter-in-law sent at 9 a.m., which read simply, "Condo fee," no greeting, no question mark at the end that suggested any real uncertainty, just a prompt, like pressing a button. The button didn't work anymore. On the 3rd, Mitchell called. I let it go to voicemail. He left a message saying there must have been a problem with the transfer and could I check my banking app. On the 5th, he called again. This time, I picked up. "There was no problem with the transfer," I said. A long pause. "Dad, the fee was due on the 1st. "I know when it was due." "We're going to get a late penalty." "I know how late penalties work, Mitchell." Another pause. His voice shifted. Got younger somehow, the way it used to when he was a teenager and he'd pushed too far and was recalibrating. "Is something wrong?" "I'd been thinking," I said, "that it might be time for the two of you to take over your own expenses." Silence on the line, the kind that has texture. "I don't understand," he said finally. "Sure you do. Dad, we're already stretched." "Then you'll need to look at where money is going and make some adjustments." I kept my voice even, not cold, just even, like a man who has thought about what he's going to say before he says it. "You're 34. Your wife works. The condo is yours. You'll manage." He said a few more things after that. His voice got louder. He brought up the mortgage, the insurance, the fact that the job market in Toronto was impossible right now, the fact that his wife had been dealing with some health things. He was vague about what kind, and that this was genuinely bad timing. I said I was sorry to hear that. I meant it, mostly. Then he said something that I didn't expect. He said, "Is this about the wedding?" I didn't say anything for a moment. "Mitchell," I said eventually, "I found out my son got married from a Facebook post your uncle sent me. What do you think?" He didn't have anything to say to that. We hung up a few minutes later, not angrily, just without resolution, the way those conversations end when both people are too tired and too far apart to reach each other. For the next few weeks, my phone was busy. His wife called twice, polite the first time, less so the second. She used phrases like, "I don't know what he's told you," and "we've been really struggling." And at one point, "I thought you cared about your son." I told her I did care about your son. I told her I also thought caring about someone sometimes meant not saving them from the work of their own life. She hung up. My brother came for dinner one Saturday. We had pork chops and talked about hockey, and he didn't ask about Mitchell until after dinner, standing in the kitchen while I washed the plates. "Is he going to be okay?" my brother asked. "He's 34 and healthy and has a condo in Liberty Village," I said. "He's going to be fine." "And you?" I thought about it. "And the best I've been in a while, honestly." He nodded like that made sense to him. The thing about giving too much for too long is that you stop feeling it as generosity and start feeling it as obligation. And the thing about obligation is that it's heavy in a way that sneaks up on you. You don't notice the weight until you put it down. I put it down. A few months later, I took a trip I'd been putting off for years. 2 weeks in Newfoundland, drove out to the tip of the Bonavista Peninsula, stayed in a little inn run by a couple about my age who made bake apple jam from scratch and had a wood stove in the sitting room that I sat by every evening with a novel and a glass of scotch. I hiked the coastal trails. I watched the Atlantic do what it does. I didn't think about condo fees or car repairs or e-transfer requests. One evening, I called my daughter from my second marriage, who is 26 and lives in Halifax and works as a nurse, and has never once asked me for money she hadn't already paid back, and I told her about the week. She laughed at my description of the inn's breakfast portions and asked if I'd seen any puffins. "A few," I said. "Dad," she said, "you sound happy." I thought about it. "I think I might be," I said. The condo in Liberty Village, I heard from my brother eventually, they ended up selling, bought a smaller place in Etobicoke. I don't know the details and I didn't ask. Mitchell texted me at Christmas, just a short message, "Merry Christmas, Dad, hope you're doing well." I replied in kind. We haven't spoken properly since. I don't know if that will change. I hope it does, but I've stopped building my peace around outcomes I can't control. I spent 30 years making myself indispensable so that I wouldn't have to feel like I'd failed. The irony is that the moment I stopped making myself available for every emergency, every fee, every casual request dressed up as a crisis, that was the first moment in 30 years I felt like myself again. I'm 63. I have a pension and a small property in the Cowarthas that I've been slowly fixing up on weekends. I have a brother who comes for pork chops. I have a daughter who asks about puffins. I have a wood stove in Newfoundland that I still think about on cold mornings. That's not a small life. That's actually a pretty good one. And it started the moment I stopped answering the button. There's a moment I keep coming back to, not the phone call, not the Facebook photos my brother forwarded. It's the night after, sitting at my kitchen table in the dark, the heat ticking through the old baseboards, and realizing that I had been afraid for a very long time. Not of Mitchell, not of his wife. of the silence that I thought would follow if I ever stopped writing the checks. That fear cost me more than money. It cost me my own judgment. Every time I told myself I was helping, what I was really doing was avoiding the harder thing, looking at my son clearly and saying, "This isn't working and I'm part of why." Mitchell didn't become who he became in a vacuum. I built that vacuum. I filled every uncomfortable gap with an e-transfer. I smoothed over every consequence before he could feel its edges. I told myself it was love, and some of it was, but a lot of it was guilt wearing love's coat, and I confused the two for so long that I stopped being able to tell them apart. What I've come to understand, slowly, the way you understand things that cost you something, is that real care has to be honest to mean anything. You can't genuinely love someone and also protect them from the truth of their own choices. Those two things don't fit in the same room. I spent 30 years trying to make them fit, and all I managed to do was raise a man who reached his mid-30s without ever having to reckon with much of anything. That's on me, not entirely, but enough. The harder thing, the thing that took me longest to find the nerve for, was deciding that it wasn't too late to change course. Not for Mitchell necessarily, I can't control what he does with the version of himself he's built. But for me, 63 is not old. It's not young either, but it's not a fixed point. I still had choices. I still had the capacity to look at a situation with clear eyes and act on what I actually saw instead of what I wished were true. That's what I did, and it didn't feel righteous. It didn't feel like winning. It felt like putting down something very heavy and then standing there, a little stunned, wondering why I'd carried it so far in the first place. My daughter called me from Halifax last week. She asked if I was eating properly. She asked about the property in the Cow-offers. She asked if the loons were back on the lake yet. That's what a real conversation sounds like. It's not complicated. It doesn't require an e-transfer at the end of it. It's just two people who actually want to know how the other one is doing. I think Mitchell might find his way eventually. People often do, once the floor they've been standing on stops holding them up. It's an uncomfortable thing to learn, but it tends to stick. I hope it sticks for him. I hope he builds something he can be proud of, something that belongs to him because he made it, not because someone made it easier for him not to have to. But that's his work now, not mine. Mine was learning, at 63, that you can still choose integrity over comfort, that you can still decide to be honest, even when it costs you something you love, that the version of strength I spent my whole life confusing with money was never really strength at all. I know that now. It took me long enough.